This is It Matters, the show that digs beneath the surface of our political landscape, pop culture, and the 2024 election. I'm your host, Michael Starr Hopkins. I'm a born and bred Washingtonian who knows the ins and outs of DC. I've worked with political heavyweights from presidents to governors and members of Congress. I also write for and appear on The Hill, The Daily Beast, MSNBC, and News Nation. Now I'm bringing you prominent politicians and cultural icons, and the unfiltered truth. So buckle up and join me as we navigate this crazy world together and look at the situations that matter the most. This is It Matters. Let's dive in. All right. You guys know him as a comedian, as a correspondent on The Daily Show, and as a co-headliner of America for the Last Time tour. I know him as Wordwood Jr. How you doing, man?
How you been, man?
I'm good. I wanted to have you on to talk about not just politics, but your unique perspective about it, especially being a son of the South from Alabama. Talk to me about how growing up in Alabama framed how you looked at politics and comedy from the start.
You know, for me, it's been an issue of really looking at, like, Alabama's an interesting place because people go, oh, Alabama. Yeah, but also Birmingham is like 75% black. Mm-hmm. We moved to Birmingham mid-'80s, peak white flight. And so for the most part, I grew up around black people. I've only known blackety black everything. Only time I saw white folks is when we went to the good mall during Christmas. So, you know, this idea of racism and inequality, it was always there. It was a cloud. I was always prepared and raised to be told that there is a monster outside of the house. You say it's like the kids in The Quiet Place. When you grow up around the monsters, that's all you ever known. So you move in a way that prepares you for an encounter with them. And it wasn't until I got out of college that you really start seeing these systems in place and really being affected by these systems, you know? So I'd say that Alabama gave me a sense of optimism, though, because I saw a lot of people who were fighting for what was right. Because Birmingham is forever in a fight with the state of Alabama for growth. And so, you know, it was always interesting to be a part of an ecosystem with my father, who was friends with all of the politicians and the movers and shakers and state senators, to see them always fighting. So I've never not seen black people fight. And I think that's always given me a degree of hope about what is possible in this country.
Talk to me about your father, because he was a journalist, right?
Correct. Yeah, my dad was a broadcast journalist, radio.
So growing up kind of at the foot of Montgomery, Birmingham, Selma, with a father who's covering all of this, what's that like? Because I had my own unique experience with Selma when I was trying to get the name of that bridge changed.
Yes. I think that, you know, my father has always been someone that's no nonsense. And just for perspective, you know, my dad was one of the co-founders of the National Black Network, which was, you know, at WVON, Black-owned talk radio station in Chicago, legendary to this day. And the National Black Network was essentially a syndicated series of news stories, black journalists doing news stories that were syndicated out to other black radio stations. And so it was essentially a black information pipeline, you know, in the radio age. And so my father's always been about pointing out bullshit and seeing what's going on in the world and what's right and what's not, and working to fight for that. And I really think that, being around him and watching him do that tirelessly, and his commentaries on race and politics in America, it really did help to inform me a little bit. You know, we're talking about a man who covered the Soweto riots. He was down in, you know, South Africa. He was in Rhodesia before it became Zimbabwe, covering that Civil War. He was in Vietnam, embedded with black soldiers getting shot at. So he's always taken pride in documenting the black experience globally across our diaspora. And so, the level of detail in which he has been, looking at stuff.
Yeah.
It definitely helped shape my views, but it's not like my dad drugged me to any of this stuff and made me watch him give the speech. It was just who he was, and I was around it, and the rest is osmosis.
So, kind of as you grew and kind of grew into comedy, did it just seem natural to talk about kind of social commentary rather than, some joke tellers or some comedians are just straight up joke tellers and some people are storytellers, some people are social commentary. Kind of how did you find your group?
I think for me, it was definitely more so it wasn't until I was in like my mid 30s, man, that I really started becoming like what people think of me as today politically. Like you got to remember, I started comedy when I was 19. You write what you know. And all I knew was my roommate eating my food when I'm not home. So I wrote jokes about that.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, life starts happening and you start having experiences. And then I think that leaves you in a place of wanting more or like asking questions. I started asking questions. That's what happened.
Uh-huh.
You started, well, why is it like that? Well, why is the Confederate flag like that? Why can't we just, if we took the money that we were paying off police lawsuits and just used it to pay police more and make the job so well paid that you have to snitch on a dirty cop, then maybe like just starting thinking of weird solutions to problems, stuff like that. So that's kind of where I, started kind of turning the corner was, early 30s. And this is before Daily Show. But once I got Daily Show, that really, really kind of sealed the deal on kind of how I like chose to analyze stuff.
So you were at FAMU. What year did you graduate FAMU?
I came out of FAMU 2001. It was supposed to be 2000, but
listen, I did a victory lap too. It happens to the best of us. It was so much fun.
Like that. I almost did 2 victory laps.
Did it. It's like a little kid now. What was it like going from Birmingham to Tallahassee? Like you got FAMU, but then you also got Florida State right there and the state capital.
Oh, that's a good question. Tallahassee was whiter than Birmingham, but FAMU was as black as anywhere I'd been in Birmingham.
Yeah. So
it doesn't really it's funny because like everybody has their first like racism story thing or whatever. You get called nigger playing high school baseball when you play the white schools out in the country. Like it doesn't even make you mad. That's just, all right, you call me nigga as I slid into second base. All right, cool.
Please up.
But, bro, I remember we went in a store. We went in Wilson's, the leather experts. I don't even know if that store is still open anymore. But we went into Wilson's in Governor Square Mall in Tallahassee, and me and my dog, Barrick, we walked in, and the first thing out the sales associate mouth was, "We don't have layaway."
Oh,
we're like, what the fuck? Not how you doing? Can I help you? What are you just browsing? Just straight up, we don't have layaway.
Listen, the South is a wild place, but Florida is a wild place. I remember coming down, I'm a bred Washingtonian. So coming from DC to St. Petersburg, Florida, I thought was country. But it wasn't until I started getting on political campaigns and I'd go up to Tallahassee or I'd have to cross the state in the middle of the night. Like that shit is scary. Like Rosewood is real. Like,
yeah.
Like it's real. Still.
Yeah, there's a spot, like I've always told people the Gulf Coast side of Florida is a totally different white person.
Yes.
Than the Atlantic Ocean side of Florida. Like Tampa I call it the armpit. Tampa on up through the armpit into the panhandle. I think it's US 29. I think that's the state road that runs northbound parallel to the coast. it's some cuts up in there, boy. You don't want to be there at the sundown, boy.
Yeah,
And
gates.
you can preach all that positivity if you want, but I hope you got that thing on you, because they gonna try you.
It is real. I mean, like,
You gonna get tried.
there were campaigns where I'd be like, wherever I am at 5 o'clock is where I am. Like, we're gonna go keep driving until 8, 9, 10 o'clock. So, you know.
Yeah, I'll time my drive out to make sure that I'm hitting certain stretches at the certain times. And there's just certain places I won't, there's certain places I just won't drive at night, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just not going to go through here, you know? There's a drive I always make where I'm very nervous, where it's Bloomington, Indiana to Indianapolis. And it's always 4:30. I always play Bloomington on like, late show ends at midnight. My flight is 6 a.m. out of Indianapolis, which means I got to be on the road by 4 in the morning. That's 60 miles of state highway. It's a little interstate now. They done some construction, but in my 25 years of comedy, it's been some interesting scenery. Let's just say that. And I don't do interesting scenery.
What's it like being on the road? I mean, you get to see a little bit of everything. How does that inform kind of not just like your worldview, but politics, humor? Do you see kind of things coming before the rest of us?
What seeing the road, what the road does, and this is why most comedians are the way they are, and I don't think people consider this, is that everybody that's voting the way you don't want them to vote, we have met individually. We've seen them, we've shook their hands, we've had beers with them, we've hung out after a show. So I'm not saying we necessarily understand where all of these people are coming from, but there's still a degree of humanity to them, even if we don't agree politically. I think the difference between now and 20 years ago is that if you met somebody who didn't agree with you, it was about whether or not taxes should go up this percentage point. Where now, a lot of the stuff we're disagreeing on is just straight up a discussion about people's humanity and people's rights. So it's a lot more divided now in that regard. But, you know, I really do not think that if you've never been or seen these places, like, I'm not saying I defend it, but I get it. I've met broke ass coal miners.
Yeah.
And if a dude run for office and say, I'm going to bring back coal, they going to vote for him. They not finna do the homework to figure out that the energy restrictions and blah, 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 and that coal is on the way out. They don't care. If a motherfucker own a Blockbuster Video and Trump said, I'm bringing back Blockbuster Video, and that's the only way you know to make money, how you think you gonna vote, man? So, I mean, I think there's a lot of that happens, and I think that helps to, for sure, influence some of my politics. It's the fact that I've met a lot of red state people, and, you know, I think all individually, we're all much different than the parties that we claim to align to. I wish we didn't have a party system.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to a lot of Republicans who, like, I disagree with on, you know, policies or whatever, but I think they love the country. I know I love the country, but we support such fundamentally different visions. It makes me wonder, do Republicans voters now love Trump or just hate Democrats? It's become so, it's like Pistons, Lakers, like Pistons,
I think it's
Bulls,
two different. I think it's just two. You're talking about two different type of Republicans. I think, you know, but there's also, you know, a lot of liberals who are just very much never Trump. Biden's better. Like, okay, fine, but then that merges into how dare you criticize Biden, and that is not. I don't agree with that. I think that the idea that criticizing the president could potentially get us a worse president. Okay. Okay. But I don't know if that necessarily means we can never hold him accountable, or do we do that second term? Maybe second term is where that happens. But
that's what we said about Obama, isn't it? Isn't it? If everybody waits Obama's first term, we gotta just stick with it, because in the second term he'll do the things he couldn't.
Yeah, and then a lot of the stuff he wasn't able to deliver on. He did some stuff. I'm not going to say
absolutely, like that's not criticism of him,
but the other thing is that we fall into is a lot of absolutism, and that if you aren't doing all of the things, then you are worthless, and your equity politically is zero. And I don't agree with that either. I just think that, there's a lot of people that have chosen teams. Politics is team based now. Social media put you in an information silo as well. So I just think a lot of those things all play a factor.
Do you think that's intentional? There's a couple of corporations that control kind of how you get access to media. Do you think there is something to be said? I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but keeping people distracted. It's things we've seen in other countries in terms of being able to distract you with this hand while we're doing these things.
Yeah, but I also think corporations I think we give corporations way too much credit for their political agendas. I mean, a corporation would benefit from
the tax breaks.
If we're just talking social media, I benefit from you thinking a certain way to vote a certain way to get the person in office that's going to vote on the issues that benefit my company fiscally.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something there, but I think most of these companies are just driven by engagement and profitability, and things that invoke emotion are going to supersede, the happy puppy dog picture. Do you hate puppies or love cats versus a post that just goes, I love dogs.
I fucking hate cats.
In the comments, someone's going to go, I fucking hate cats.
Yeah.
And then, what about guinea pigs? And I got a ball python, whatever. So, I do think that everybody's entrenched into their own thing, their own camps now. It's unfortunate.